The future was supposed to be flying cars, robot butlers, and cities on Mars. What we actually got was people predicting Wi-Fi would fry our brains and that barcodes were the mark of the beast. Humanity's track record of seeing the future is less Nostradamus and more guy yelling at clouds. And the best part? The wronger the prediction, the louder people believed it. If you think Y2K panic was dumb, or that the world ending in 2012 was peak stupidity, buckle up, because those were just the warm-up acts. The truly spectacular failures are still ahead. 1. In 1903, the president of Michigan Savings Bank advised people not to invest in Henry Ford's new car company because the horse is here to stay. Yes, apparently, four-legged lawnmowers were supposed to be humanity's forever vehicle. Imagine buying gas for your horse, parallel parking your horse, or cleaning out its tailpipe every morning. The logic was simple. Horses eat grass, cars don't. But then, shocker, the world realized grass doesn't get you to work on time. Today, Ford is worth billions, and the only thing here to stay is that banker's eternal roast session in every dumb predictions article ever written. 2. In 1876, Western Union rejected Alexander Graham Bell's invention of the telephone, calling it an electrical toy. Right, because who on earth would ever want instant voice communication when you could just send a letter that takes 3 weeks, arrives covered in mud, and is opened by the wrong cousin? Their executives literally couldn't imagine a future where people might want to yell at each other without postage stamps. Fast forward, and now people are screaming at strangers on speakerphone in the grocery aisle. If only Western Union had known the future of electrical toys would include spam calls about car warranties. 3. In 1943, IBM's chairman predicted the world would only ever need about 5 computers. 5 for the entire planet. Apparently, he thought every country could share one like divorced parents with joint custody. Can you imagine Russia asking America, "Hey, can we borrow the world computer on weekends? We promise not to delete your Minesweeper saves." This man looked at a device that would eventually be inside toasters, thermostats, and smart fridges and thought, "Hey, 5 ought to do it." Today, I have 5 computers within arm's reach, and one of them is in my toothbrush. 4. In 1966, Time magazine confidently declared that remote shopping, while entirely feasible, will flop. Yes, because who in their right mind would want to buy things from the comfort of their couch instead of driving to Sears, parking in Mordor, and fighting 3 Karens over the last blender? They thought humans would reject convenience out of pure stubbornness. Enter Amazon, a company that literally sells coffins online and somehow makes a profit. Remote shopping didn't flop. It devoured malls like Godzilla. And the only flop left is Time magazine's prediction itself, sitting in the Museum of Bad Takes. 5. In 1995, Newsweek published an article explaining why the internet would be a passing fad. They called it overhyped and a waste of time. Oh, if only. Imagine a world without cat memes, Facebook arguments, and strangers on Reddit telling you you're wrong. Honestly, their prediction sounds more like wishful thinking. Instead, the internet ate newspapers, bookstores, and any hope of being unreachable after work. Newsweek, by the way, went bankrupt and sold for $1 in 2010, probably on the same internet they said was doomed. Irony is alive and thriving, unlike their subscriber base. 6. In 1909, E.M. Forster predicted that airplanes were just a fad and will never be of any real importance. Right. Flying through the air at 500 miles per hour is clearly less practical than being trapped in a train that smells like boiled cabbage. Forster was convinced people would reject flight out of sheer terror. Instead, planes became so normal that we now complain about pretzels not being salty enough at 30,000 feet. Somewhere, Forster is looking up from the afterlife at Delta Airlines and muttering, "Well, I still think trains had better snacks." 7. In the 1920s, some futurists predicted that radio would replace schools entirely. That's right. Kids were supposed to gather around a giant wooden box, and instead of teachers, a disembodied voice would just drone algebra at them. Spoiler: kids didn't learn math from AM radio. They just learned how to tune out noise. Fast forward to Zoom classrooms in 2020, and the dream finally came true. Except instead of radios, it was Wi-Fi, lag, and teachers screaming, "You're on mute!" Turns out the prediction wasn't wrong. It was just a century early and even more depressing. 8. In 1955, a supposed expert predicted that nuclear-powered vacuum cleaners would be common within 10 years, because nothing says safe home appliance like strapping a miniature Chernobyl to your Hoover. Imagine vacuuming the carpet while also glowing like a rave stick. Instead of dust bags, you'd need radiation suits. Of course, this never happened because humanity realized that maybe uranium shouldn't be part of spring cleaning. But I will admit, a vacuum that doubles as a power plant does sound kind of efficient. Just don't let the dog near it. 9. In 1962, a futurist declared that humans would be living in underwater cities by the year 2000. Yes, because who wouldn't want to spend eternity in Atlantis, paying HOA fees to a crab? The prediction ignored small details like oxygen, crushing pressure, and the fact that people panic when they run out of air after 2 seconds underwater. Instead of underwater cities, we got overpriced beachfront condos and Shark Week. Frankly, I'd rather watch people wrestle stingrays on TV than live in SpongeBob's neighborhood with a permanent snorkel. 10. In 1999, tech experts warned that Y2K would cause planes to fall out of the sky, banks to collapse, and nuclear plants to melt down. People stocked up on canned beans and water like Armageddon was coming. Midnight hit, and nothing. Planes stayed up, ATMs worked, and the scariest thing that happened was your uncle waking up hungover on January 1st. Billions were spent preparing for digital doomsday, and humanity's big lesson was, maybe don't build computer systems that panic at 1999 turning into 2000. Still, it was the most dramatic non-event since Geraldo opened Al Capone's vault. 11. In 1957, popular mechanics confidently predicted that by 2000, everyone would own personal helicopters. Yes, your daily commute was supposed to look like the opening of the Jetsons, except with mid-air traffic jams and flaming crashes in cul-de-sacs. Imagine Little League soccer fields turned into helipads, and your neighbor Gary constantly crash-landing into your pool. Instead, we got SUVs and gridlock, because apparently humanity is more comfortable idling in traffic for 2 hours than falling out of the sky in a spinning blender. 12. In 1967, futurists claimed that by 2020, machines would take over all housework. Washing dishes? Done. Laundry? Done. Picking up your socks? Done. Instead, we got Roombas that commit suicide by launching themselves downstairs and smart fridges that send passive-aggressive texts about your milk expiring. If this is the robotic revolution, it's less utopia and more slightly annoying roommate. I'm still waiting for the dishwasher that actually unloads itself. Until then, humanity's greatest achievement in automation is convincing Alexa to play Baby Shark on loop just to irritate the neighbors. 13. In 1952, the Rand Corporation predicted we'd all have flying nuclear-powered cars by the year 2000, a vehicle that's both a reactor and a traffic hazard. What could possibly go wrong? Imagine tailgating someone at 70 miles per hour while both of you are carrying enough plutonium to vaporize Kansas. These geniuses looked at Hiroshima and thought, yeah, but what if it also had cup holders? The prediction thankfully never came true, proving that even humanity knows when an idea is too catastrophically stupid to pursue. And that bar is usually very, very low. 14. In 1894, a British newspaper predicted that by 1950, London would be buried under 9 feet of horse manure because of the growing number of carriages. This was called the Great Horse Manure Crisis. City planners genuinely believed their future would be less skyscrapers and more waist-deep in poop. Of course, the car came along and solved the manure issue, replacing it with climate change, oil wars, and traffic jams. We didn't drown in horse dung, we just upgraded to carbon dioxide. Progress smells different, but not necessarily better. 15. In the 1960s, futurists swore we'd all be wearing disposable paper clothing by the year 2000. Yes, paper. As in, oops, it rained, and now I'm naked at the bus stop. They imagined people just tossing out outfits like fast food wrappers, living in a society powered by laundromat obsolescence. Instead, we ended up with fast fashion, not made of paper, but still falling apart after one wash. Honestly, paper clothing might have been more durable than half the stuff at Walmart today. 16. In 1981, a tech writer claimed there was no reason anyone would want a computer in their home. Right, Because why would you ever want instant access to information, communication, or solitaire? The idea of using a computer outside of business was apparently laughable. Today, not only do we have computers in our homes, we have them in our pockets, our cars, and inside our smart light bulbs. Humanity didn't just want computers at home, we wanted them everywhere, nagging us about software updates during funerals. 17. In 1966, Futurama, the magazine, not the cartoon, predicted that by the 21st century, humans would stop eating food and survive only on pills. You'd pop a capsule for breakfast and call it a day. No cooking, no eating, just efficient pill popping. Which, to be fair, sounds like every frat house diet already. But as it turns out, people enjoy chewing things. Pills never replaced food, and the future ended up being about overpriced kale smoothies, not nutrition tablets. Instead of the elegance of one pill, we just invented Soylent, which tastes like drywall dust in a bottle. 18. In 1950, a group of futurists predicted we'd all have personal jetpacks by the year 2000, because apparently everyone thought daily life should feel like a James Bond chase scene. The vision was suburban dads rocketing to the office, gracefully touching down in the parking lot like superheroes. The reality? Jetpacks exist, but they run out of fuel faster than a TikTok trend and cost more than a house. Not to mention, they sound like an F-16 taking off in your backyard, which would make mowing the lawn a full-scale military operation. Humanity didn't get smooth sci-fi commuting. We got YouTube clips of inventors catching on fire in a swamp. And honestly, that's better entertainment. 19. In 1977, Ken Olsen, founder of Digital Equipment Corporation, confidently said, "There is no reason anyone would want a computer in their home." He ran a tech company and still thought personal computing was about as practical as owning a nuclear submarine. The man essentially invented the Titanic of bad takes, an industry insider predicting the iceberg didn't exist. Fast forward a few decades, and not only do we have computers in our homes, but they're in our pockets, our cars, our microwaves. Hell, my refrigerator now judges my eating habits in real time. Olsen's statement didn't just age badly, it aged like milk in the sun, left out next to a broken router. 20. In 1913, American engineer Thomas Edison predicted we'd all be eating metal by the year 2000. Yes, actual metal. Nickel soup, iron sandwiches, and tungsten smoothies. He thought science would figure out how to extract nutrients from steel the way you squeeze juice from an orange. The idea was that future humans would casually chew through cutlery like it was celery. Spoiler, we did not become Iron Man. Instead, we invented Lunchables. Edison gave us the light bulb, sure, but his food pyramid was basically, try chewing a fork. Imagine Thanksgiving dinner. Pass the gravy, and oh, don't forget the zinc casserole. 21. In 1965, a RAND study predicted that by 2020, everyone would have their own private supersonic airplane for personal travel. So, rush hour traffic wasn't supposed to be bumper-to-bumper cars. It was supposed to be mid-air collisions over target. The prediction made it sound like a dream. A world where every family has a personal Concorde parked in the driveway. The reality? Supersonic flight is still so expensive that only billionaires and James Bond villains can afford it, while the rest of us are stuck with Spirit Airlines charging extra for oxygen. If supersonic cars had actually happened, suburbs would just look like scrapyards for flaming jet wrecks. 22. In 1969, futurists declared that by the year 2000, offices would be paperless. Paperless. That's adorable. They genuinely believed technology would eliminate bureaucracy instead of feeding it like steroids. The truth is, technology just gave us more paper with cooler fonts. The modern office is a graveyard of printouts, Post-it notes, and 10-page memos about how to reduce paper usage. Paperless offices? Please. I once got a 40-page PDF emailed to me just to explain the new policy on PDFs. Humanity didn't cut down paperwork. We just gave it Wi-Fi and made it travel faster. 23. In the 1950s, Disney's House of the Future promised a plastic utopia where everything was shiny, streamlined, and indestructible. The house was made entirely of plastics, which they thought would be the miracle material forever. And sure, plastic did conquer the world, but not in the perfect house way. Instead, we got oceans filled with floating grocery bags, turtles with six-pack rings as jewelry, and microplastics in our bloodstreams. Disney's vision of the future was a Barbie dream house. Reality gave us Planet Trash Island. Honestly, they weren't wrong about plastic being eternal. It'll outlive us all, probably hosting the cockroach after-party once we're gone. 24. In 1901, a New York Times editorial insisted heavier-than-air flying machines were impossible. Impossible! They confidently stated that man would never fly, just 2 years before the Wright brothers casually yeeted gravity into irrelevance. Imagine being so smugly wrong that history dunks on you within 24 months. The Wright brothers basically said, "Hold my screwdriver," and humanity's greatest skeptic got turned into a footnote in the world's longest roast session. It's the ultimate reminder: never bet against human stupidity or human pettiness to prove you wrong out of spite. 25. In 1937, Popular Science predicted that future highways would have giant conveyor belts to carry cars along automatically. The idea was that you just park on a moving road and let the system drag you to work, which sounds less like the future and more like being kidnapped by a massive treadmill. Picture thousands of cars being shuffled along like sushi plates at a restaurant, with drivers just hoping the belt doesn't suddenly yeet them into Cleveland. Instead of conveyor highways, we invented traffic jams, which are basically conveyor belts powered by rage, honking, and existential dread. 26. In the 1960s, futurists swore that nuclear fusion would give us unlimited free energy by the year 2000. Unlimited, free energy. And yet, here we are, paying $4.99 for gas like it's artisanal olive oil. Fusion is still stuck in the almost there phase, like that friend who's been writing their novel for 30 years. Every decade, scientists say, just 20 more years, which is science speak for, please keep funding us. So instead of Star Trek energy utopia, we're still arguing about wind turbines and oil pipelines. At this rate, we'll crack fusion just in time to power the last iPhone before humanity goes extinct. 27. In 1950, RAND scientists predicted we'd all have robot nannies by the 1980s. These robots would cook, clean, and raise the kids. Instead, we got Furby, an electronic gremlin that spoke in tongues and traumatized an entire generation. The prediction imagined Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, gracefully serving dinner. Reality delivered a Roomba that chokes on socks and cries when it sees stairs. If a robot can't handle Cheerios on the carpet, I'm not handing it a toddler. The dream wasn't wrong, just aggressively oversold. Humanity still has robot nannies. They're just called iPads handed to children at dinner. 28. In 1995, Robert Metcalfe, the inventor of Ethernet, said the internet would collapse catastrophically by 1996. Collapse. Like one day we'd all log on to AOL and find nothing but static. Instead, the internet exploded into the largest cultural landfill in human history. Not only did it not collapse, it became the only thing holding civilization together. Without it, we wouldn't have memes, online dating disasters, or 12-hour arguments with strangers about pizza toppings. Metcalfe was so wrong, he literally had to eat his words. He ground up a physical copy of his article and blended it into a smoothie, which, in fairness, is still less painful than reading Twitter. 29. In the 1960s, futurists predicted humans would colonize Mars by 1980. Which is adorable, considering we still can't figure out how to keep people alive in a tin can orbiting Earth without them wanting to strangle each other. They thought Mars colonies would be like suburban neighborhoods with red dirt lawns and Martian golf courses. Instead, we got Elon Musk posting memes on X and promising soon. We're closer to making a Mars-themed Starbucks drink than we are to actually living there. The dream of Mars colonization wasn't wrong. It was just wildly optimistic about humans not screwing everything up. 30. In 1970, Alvin Toffler's book Future Shock predicted that by the 21st century, people would be overwhelmed by too much free time. Yes, free time, the most laughable concept of modern adulthood. They imagined humans sitting around bored, wondering what to do with their endless leisure. Instead, we're working 60-hour weeks, answering emails at midnight, and pretending yoga class counts as relaxation. Free time didn't overwhelm us, capitalism did. The only people drowning in too much free time are billionaires on yachts, and even they seem miserable. 31. In 1939, science writer David Dietz predicted that by the year 2000, we'd all be eating synthetic food cubes, entire meals condensed into little Lego blocks of flavor. Breakfast, cube, lunch, cube, romantic anniversary dinner, 2 cubes and a candle. The dream was efficiency, no cooking, no mess. The reality is Soylent, a liquid sadness that tastes like drywall paste. Humanity didn't replace meals with cubes. We just turned them into frozen pizzas and fast food wrappers. Honestly, food cubes would probably be healthier than whatever Taco Bell counts as meat. 32. In 1997, Wired magazine predicted the death of brick-and-mortar bookstores within a decade, which, technically, wasn't totally wrong, except they forgot people actually like touching books, sniffing paper, and pretending they read more than 3 pages. Yes, Amazon steamrolled half the industry, but bookstores didn't die. They evolved into coffee shops with a side hustle. Instead of extinction, we got Barnes & Noble selling more lattes than novels. Wired was right about bookstores shrinking. They were just wrong about humans abandoning them completely. Because as it turns out, you can't Instagram yourself holding a Kindle as easily as you can with a $30 hardcover you'll never finish. 33. In the 1920s, people predicted that cities of the future would have enormous moving sidewalks carrying pedestrians everywhere, like escalators, but covering entire streets, shuttling citizens along like luggage at an airport. The dream was effortless travel. The reality would have been people lying down like sloths, letting the belt drag them to work. It sounds futuristic until you realize moving sidewalks already exist, and people still stand completely still on them, blocking everyone else like human speed bumps. If cities had built them, rush hour would just be thousands of commuters glaring at one guy taking up the whole conveyor. 34. In 1909, Nikola Tesla predicted that wireless energy would power the entire world by the 21st century. He imagined towers beaming electricity through the air like Wi-Fi, eliminating wires forever. A global grid of free energy, unlimited and magical. Instead, humanity buried itself in extension cords, adapters, and wall chargers that vanish faster than socks in the dryer. Tesla's dream wasn't impossible. It was just immediately stomped out by corporations who realized they couldn't meter the air. So instead of free energy for all, we're still fighting over who gets to monopolize the power socket at Starbucks. 35. In the 1960s, futurists predicted that by the 2000s, humans would have colonies on the moon, whole neighborhoods up there, picket fences, Walmarts, HOA rules about how your space dome needs to match your neighbor's dome. They thought we'd be grilling moon burgers while watching Earth rise over the horizon. Instead, we went to the moon a few times, planted a flag, played golf, and then collectively said, "Yeah, we're good." We didn't colonize it. We treated the moon like a bad Airbnb. Visit once, trash the place, never return. Now the closest we get to lunar living is buying glow-in-the-dark stars at Walmart and sticking them on the ceiling. 36. In 1939, the World's Fair promised that by the 21st century, we'd all own robot chefs who cooked every meal for us. These mechanical gourmets were supposed to whip up steak dinners and soufflés on command. Instead, what we got was the microwave, a machine that somehow manages to ruin both soup and popcorn at the same time. The future was supposed to taste like Michelin star cuisine prepared by chrome butlers. The reality is me, at 2 a.m., watching a burrito explode like a science experiment. Robot chefs didn't take over kitchens, but Uber Eats drivers sure did, bringing us lukewarm fries at triple the price. 37. In the 1920s, a popular futurist swore that humans would evolve into beings with giant heads and tiny bodies because of all the thinking we do. Yes, apparently the future was just Funko Pops with PhDs. They imagined humans as massive-brained geniuses floating around like bobbleheads. Instead, the opposite happened. Our attention spans shrank to goldfish levels, and our biggest physical adaptation was developing text neck. We didn't evolve into giant-brained intellects. We evolved into creatures who binge-watch reality TV and need a chiropractor. If this is evolution, Darwin owes us a refund. 38. In 1974, Arthur C. Clarke predicted that by 2001, nobody would need to commute because everyone would telecommute from home, which sounds brilliant, until you realize it's basically the nightmare of 2020. He imagined a future of leisure and efficiency, but in reality it was sweatpants, Zoom calls where someone's dog interrupts every 5 minutes, and bosses demanding to know why your Slack status wasn't green at midnight. Clarke wasn't wrong. He was just way too optimistic about humans enjoying it. Turns out, remote work didn't liberate us. It just made the office invade our bedrooms. 39. In the 1800s, some thinkers predicted that humanity's biggest problem in the future would be too much leisure. They thought machines would do all the work, leaving humans with nothing but time to paint landscapes and write sonnets. Instead, machines took over and bosses said, "Great, now do twice the work for the same pay." Leisure? The only people with leisure are billionaires pretending rocket launches are personal hobbies. The rest of us are stuck in traffic, not painting pastoral masterpieces but stress-googling cheap vacation near me. The prediction wasn't wrong about machines. They just forgot greed exists. 40. In 1900, John Elfreth Watkins predicted that by 2000, the letters C, X, and Q would vanish from the alphabet. Apparently, English was going to get so efficient, we'd Marie Kondo 3 entire letters. Spoiler, not only did we keep them, we made them more annoying. Now, Q only exists for conspiracy theories, X for Elon Musk's midlife crisis, and C for words that could have been spelled with K but weren't. If anything, English got messier. Watkins thought the alphabet would slim down. Instead, we added emojis, which are basically hieroglyphics for people too lazy to type "I'm sad." 41. In the 1960s, futurists confidently predicted that by 2000 we'd all live in domed cities with perfect weather control. Imagine never worrying about rain, snow, or humidity. The entire world neatly tucked into giant hamster balls. Instead, we got climate change. Weather so chaotic, it feels like the Earth itself is trolling us. Forget domed utopias. We're still arguing about whether turning on the AC too much will crash the power grid. Humanity didn't master weather. We just invented Doppler radar to panic-watch tornadoes on live TV. Domed cities sound nice, but let's be real. The HOA rules would have killed us first. 42. In 1950, it was predicted that by 2000, people would stop using doors because every building would have electronic sliding entrances. The idea was that doorknobs were going extinct, like dinosaurs. And sure, some places have sliding doors, but mostly it's just Walmarts and airports. The rest of us are still grabbing greasy doorknobs, yanking them open like cavemen. Sliding doors didn't revolutionize life. They just gave us that awkward moment when you walk up to one and it doesn't open because the sensor hates you. The death of doorknobs was exaggerated. If anything, they're more alive than ever, judging from every broken bathroom stall lock in America. 43. In the 1970s, futurists promised that by the 2000s, we'd have moving sidewalks in every city. The idea was effortless transportation. You just stand there, gliding along like a shopping cart with legs. And yes, airports have them, but let's be honest, people still stand on them, blocking traffic like human traffic cones. If cities had actually built these everywhere, rush hour wouldn't look futuristic. It would look like a giant, passive-aggressive conga line of commuters glaring at one guy scrolling TikTok while the belt drags him to work. The dream wasn't wrong, it just forgot about people. 44. In the 1890s, people predicted that by 2000, everyone would travel in giant pneumatic tubes. Imagine New York rush hour as thousands of people being shot through transparent straws like human spitballs. It was supposed to be the future of speed and efficiency, but let's be real. Within a week, someone would have clogged the system with a Chipotle burrito. Instead, we got subways that smell like regret. The only pneumatic tube most of us use is at the bank drive-thru. And that's just for sending checks, not your grandma. Humanity had a chance at living in Futurama, and instead we got delays and rats. 45. In 1930, economist John Maynard Keynes predicted that by 2030, the work week would shrink to 15 hours. 15 hours. He thought machines would free us from labor, leaving us with endless time for hobbies. Instead, machines did take over, and bosses said, "Great, now work more." The 40-hour week is still here, only now it's disguised as 60 with emails at 11 p.m. Keynes thought the future was poetry and painting. The reality is spreadsheets and burnout. Machines didn't give us leisure, they just gave us more notifications. 46. In 1966, Time magazine predicted that everyone would be working 3 days a week by the year 2000. 3 days! Friday would be the new Monday, and weekends would last forever. Instead, we invented the side hustle. Not only are we working more, we're monetizing hobbies, turning knitting into Etsy shops and car rides into Uber shifts. The 3-day work week didn't happen. What did happen was capitalism learning to squeeze productivity out of your days off. If time had been right, I'd be recording this script from a hammock. Instead, I'm here making content for your entertainment. You're welcome. 47. In 1911, Thomas Edison predicted that by the future, gold would become as cheap as iron because of advances in chemistry. Yeah, no. Gold is still expensive enough to ruin weddings. Edison thought we'd figure out alchemy, casually pumping out gold like it was Kraft mac and cheese. Instead, chemistry gave us Axe body spray and Mountain Dew. Humanity didn't solve scarcity. We just invented NFTs, which are basically fool's gold with Wi-Fi. If Edison saw what people are actually spending money on, he'd throw his light bulb in disgust and go live in a cave. 48. In the 1950s, futurists predicted that by the 21st century, humans would communicate mostly through telepathy. Actual mind-to-mind talking, no words required. Which is hilarious, considering we can't even agree on texting etiquette. Humanity was supposed to read each other's thoughts. Instead, we invented emojis. Telepathy didn't happen, but we did get the group chat, where 47 unread messages boil down to, "Where are we meeting?" Honestly, maybe it's good we never got telepathy. If I had to hear every dumb thought in line at Starbucks, I'd launch myself into the sun. 49. In 1961, scientists predicted that by the 2000s, technology would make offices obsolete. No more cubicles, no more suits, no more soul-sucking commutes. Work would be flexible and free, which is technically true if you consider answering emails on the toilet as workplace freedom. Offices didn't vanish, they metastasized. Now they follow us everywhere, in our pockets, our beds, even our vacations. The prediction wasn't wrong, it was just optimistic. Offices didn't die, they evolved into a parasite that feeds on your Wi-Fi. 50. In 2003, futurists predicted that by 2020, virtual reality would completely replace real-world interaction. Everyone would live, work, and love inside digital utopias. Instead, VR is mostly used for sword-fighting simulators and highly questionable content I can't mention here. It didn't replace life, it just became another expensive gadget collecting dust next to your Wii Fit board. If VR really was the future, Thanksgiving dinners would happen in Minecraft, and family arguments would take place in Fortnite chat. Instead, we still awkwardly sit around the table pretending we enjoy each other's company. 51. And finally, the dumbest prediction of them all. In 1966, experts at Life magazine predicted that by the year 2000, we would have completely eliminated houseflies, cockroaches, and mosquitoes. Yes, apparently they thought humans would conquer nature itself, eradicating pests forever. Fast forward, and I'm currently swatting a mosquito that's immune to every spray, every candle, and possibly small arms fire. We didn't eliminate bugs. They're thriving. They've adapted to every poison we've thrown at them, and will probably inherit the earth once we're gone. The prediction was that we'd crush pests. The reality is pests will probably outlive humanity, which means the final joke of history is this: the cockroaches won. And there you have it. Proof that humanity's greatest invention is confidently being wrong in public. Which one of these disasters deserves the crown for dumbest prediction? Drop your vote in the comments, throw in any equally ridiculous prophecies you've heard, and if you actually want more of this madness, you know what to do. Like, subscribe and strap in, because the future only gets dumber from here.